My name's Jeffrey Moss. I am the founder and CEO of Parker Dewey. Really excited everyone could join us today. I'm joined by a couple of my colleagues on here, Kristen and Michelle. They'll be helping manage the chat to the extent you have questions or comments along the way. Please use the Q&A function to ask those, and we'll try to get to them either during the presentation or at the end. So thank you again for joining us. As I said, really excited to be here. Since there are so many new folks on the call, I want to quickly set the stage. So for those of you who have seen some of this before, please bear with me for 2 minutes. Quick backdrop. None of this should be a surprise. Campus recruiting is broken. It's been broken. It was broken before the current pandemic. Companies were feeling the challenges of introducing their brands to students who weren't aware of their brand, or accessing students from schools they hadn't historically recruited at, or attracting them to apply. Even for well-known brands like Pepsi, how do you help students understand that Pepsi's more than a soda company? Students may not be thinking about marketing or strategy or sales roles for organizations, again, because of preconceived notions. How do you engage them? Again, especially difficult right now, but even pre-COVID, it was incredibly difficult to build authentic, real relationships with the students. They weren't showing up to career fairs. They weren't showing up to info sessions. If they were, the feedback from the students is the engagement felt very inauthentic or forced. And then assessing and hiring. Really, really difficult to assess candidates. I think none of us would be surprised by that. It's part of why 55% of new hires leave within the first year, and why such a large percentage of hiring managers give feedback that they weren't necessarily making the right hires. Now, all of that has been amplified because of COVID. Again, career fairs and info sessions didn't work well beforehand. They're especially not working well right now. Students don't want to attend, like you, like me. They are zoomed out. They're only showing up if they're already planning to apply, and even then it's a question mark. They're not engaging with emails. They're getting hundreds of emails from companies asking them to apply, talking about the unique and special culture. They're ignoring them. The result is that over 80% of companies don't think that they will hit their goals this year. Goals around diversity, goals around filling all of their seats. We're expecting to see much higher renege rates as students are either approached by companies that had very late starts to their recruiting efforts, or pandemic-related issues have made it impossible for certain students to start. And then expected lower convert to hires. Again, students are just happy to have internships this year. They may not necessarily be as engaged as we've seen in the past. Now, as we've seen during the past 6 years, there's been this emergence of a new approach called experiential recruiting. From a survey we did last summer, and then we refreshed it back in December, almost 90% of students said they value experiences as part of the job hunt. It's the most effective way to learn about companies. The feedback is the website and other content all looks the same. Everyone has similar messaging around their unique culture and the same pictures on the website. They go to info sessions, and again, everyone has similar messages. What they really want are these real experiences. Now, the reality is experiential recruiting is not all that new. It's what internships are. They're really deep dive to provide opportunities for you to experience the summer intern and see his or her skills, and for the intern to learn more about your organization. The difference is we're seeing companies use it more now intentionally earlier in the process. And the reason this is possible is because of micro-internships. Again, micro-internships are something we pioneered 6 years ago. This isn't some newfangled response to COVID or some new platform. We've been seeing the benefits, again, since introducing this 6 years ago. Again, for the new folks on the call, the way we define micro-internships are short-term paid professional projects completed by career launchers on behalf of busy professionals. So short term, meaning these are projects that typically range from 10 to 40 hours in duration, and they're due a few days to a few weeks out. So these are not 3-month projects. These are not things that you need done in June. These are projects you need done right now. Now, they don't replace summer internships or full-time hires. Again, we still really, really value and see the value of the longer term experiences. Organizations are using micro-internships almost as a stepping stone. So short term, paid. These are all paid projects. For those of you who have seen any of my comments recently, I obviously feel very, very strongly about the problems with unpaid internships and the long-term negative impacts on students and companies alike. Micro-internships are all paid. They are fixed fee. The price is set by the company, tends to shake out about 20 bucks an hour. But again, we're trying to make it easy. There's no back and forth negotiation or bidding or keeping track of hours. They are professional. So these are tasks that are similar to what you would give to a summer intern or a new hire if you had an extra one around. We need help conducting market research, cleansing data, writing an article. And these projects, while not necessarily the highest and best use of time for you or your colleagues, are incredibly interesting and valuable for the college students. They're also valuable for hiring managers because they provide that immediate support on tasks, as I said, may not be the highest and best use of their time, or there's just not enough hours in the day. Micro-internships are also flexible. Again, they're available year-round. They're typically done remote. Pre-COVID, about 97% of all micro-internships were done remote. In the COVID world, it's obviously approaching 100%. But what we found is by having these projects completed remotely, it makes it easier for companies and students to engage. And again, this is not a replacement for summer internships or full-time hires. And the reason this whole approach is so powerful is that everyone wins. And we're going to dig more into this as we go through. Hiring managers value the opportunity. They value the immediate support they can get on projects and the opportunity to give back to college students, recent graduates, and graduate students. For recruiting teams, they value the outcomes as well. It very much complements what they're doing to drive engagement of college students, to introduce their brand, to assess, to look beyond academic pedigree or focus schools. And then the students value the experience. As I said, these are authentic ways for them to demonstrate skills and learn about career paths, and really provides equitable pathways to full-time roles. So now that we set the stage, let's go through real quickly what our agenda will be for today. We're going to go through 5 opportunities to introduce micro-internships within organizations. Again, these are all based upon what we've seen companies doing over the past 6 years, and we know are effective. We're going to go through some specific tactics to launch. The quick takeaway is it's pretty easy. And then some of the expected benefits and impact. So again, if you have questions along the way, please feel free to use the Q&A session. Let's get rolling. Opportunity 1, busy employees. Every employee, every company, doesn't matter what size company, doesn't matter what industry, doesn't matter what role. Everyone has projects on their plate that aren't the highest and best use of their time, or there's not enough hours in the day. In sales, it might be lead generation or data cleansing. In marketing, it could be content creation or research. For those of you on the call from HR backgrounds, you may have them. Updating job descriptions, developing new content for campus recruiting, developing or researching best practices for summer internships this summer. Now, these busy professionals value the opportunity for the immediate support. They're hungry for this resource. In some cases, they just are fighting a fire. Something big came up, just sort of the normal cycles of the business. In other cases, they may not have a full-time role open, but they need the help right now, or they have projects that would be great for an intern. Could even be a department that went through a RIF recently, or departments that have open positions that they're trying to fill. Again, every professional has these projects, and they value the opportunity to get immediate support. They're hungry for it. Now, what's great is by offering micro-internships to existing professionals, they view it as a perk. This provides a great way to get that immediate support without the difficulty and challenges that are normally associated. But what's great is while they're viewing it as a perk, it's supporting the campus recruiting efforts of companies big and small. It's engaging students who may not read the emails, but are really, really excited and hungry to work on these types of projects. They're accessing students beyond the typical pools. You're looking at students from, again, schools you may not recruit at, schools you may not be visiting, schools where you may not have a deep presence. It's also really important for managers when you're quote unquote retraining them. So think about all of your hiring managers that push back on potential candidates because they didn't go to a certain school or have a certain GPA or major. Well, since the managers view this as a perk, they're just happy to get the extra set of hands. They're not focused on where the individual went to school or the GPA. And as they see these individuals get the work done, they're seeing the quality that they bring irrespective of academic pedigree, the grit, the communication skills, the problem solving, the empathy. And what it does is it helps those managers look beyond what they're used to recruiting based upon, again, GPA, major, and school. What's also great for you is you're getting feedback on the students who did a great job for the manager. And it goes well beyond what's captured in a resume. Things like communication, grit, problem solving. We know these skills are vital, but again, it's really hard to assess them on a resume. What that means, though, is while the managers are getting the support, you're getting really a curated pool of candidates who already know your company, have demonstrated the skills, and are building those relationships with the managers. So how do you do this? Well, like I said, we tried to make it easy. You could just simply direct them to this portal. We have sort of a generic portal with most common micro-internships. We're also happy to build a portal for you for your company. There's no cost or fee associated with it. All of those projects can be pre-scoped based upon the best practices that we've seen. So if marketing teams are interesting, we can highlight 8, 10, 12 of the most popular marketing projects, or for HR departments or sales or IT or finance. Again, having done this for 5 years, we've made it really, really easy for hiring managers to engage. So next time a hiring manager comes to you and says, I need help now, or when do the interns start? We need them right now. I don't need them in May. I need them for help today. You can direct them to, again, the generic Parker Dewey site, or like I said, we'd be happy to build a portal for you. But that also brings us to our second opportunity, which is open roles. And whether it's an open role you're trying to fill now, or an opening that's coming later this year, micro-internships and experiential recruiting really gives you a head start in filling them. Now, to my earlier point, it provides help for the manager who needs help right now because of the open roles, but even for full-time roles or summer internships. Again, think about your recruiting for next year's summer internships. Normally that would have begun already, or next year's full-time hires. Again, this provides an incredible head start. Now, what's great is you could look at the job descriptions for any of these full-time roles or internships, and there's always going to be sort of the specific responsibilities and deliverables. Again, develop sales content, conduct competitive research, update PowerPoint presentations, and the like. Now, not only are these tasks the managers need done while they're waiting to fill the roles, they also provide a great opportunity for HR teams to evaluate the skills and for students to showcase them. Again, it's one thing to read about a student's problem-solving skills on the resume. It's another to see it in action when a student finds creative ways to sort of capture data. In fact, think about the benefit when students complete multiple projects, especially for various managers across the department. Now, what's great is each of the managers in this example, 4 marketing managers and a sales manager, all have projects that they need help with. And what's great is students can provide that help. What's also great is different skills are required for each one of these projects. So it lets you evaluate the students, not just can he or she communicate well, or how well can they do PowerPoint, but you're seeing other skills like empathy or data analysis or creativity. What's also interesting is for a potential marketing candidate, you can see adaptability on how that student does for a sales project. But what's great is the student loves it also, because they can see how their work in marketing applies and integrates with the work of other departments. It's also great from an engagement perspective, because you're building or you're facilitating the building of real relationships between college students and potential colleagues and managers. You're helping them really start to interact and sort of visualize themselves at your organization, which is what we know drives conversion. And providing this type of exposure also addresses that earlier issue I mentioned, where 55% of new hires leave within the first year. It's one thing to think your marketing role is all about creating PowerPoints. It's another thing to realize how broad it is, that it may include marketing analytics or social media or content creation. Part of the reason this model works brings us to opportunity 3, which is that your managers are probably doing this anyway. The gig economy is estimated to be over $300 billion. And according to Accenture, the vast majority of it is rogue spend, spend that may not be formally approved by a company, spend that's going on someone's corporate card. Now, some of it's okay, again, for the Uber driver or delivery person. Again, your company, your employee putting something on the credit card for an Uber probably isn't going to set off any bells. But what about more professional needs? Your company's taking real risks around employee classification, an NDA, an assignment. And by the way, if one of your hiring managers really likes the freelancer or gigger who's doing the work, they're going to owe the platform between 20 and 40% for a non-disintermediation fee. And what we would say is instead of fighting it, harness it. You know you have managers that are already using gig economy platforms. They already have project needs. Why not harness it and really let them support your campus recruiting? So instead of picking the random gig economy person, they can work with a highly motivated college student, grad student, or recent grad. And there's real benefits both to you and them. First of all, the student is inherently motivated. So in the traditional gig economy, it's a simple exchange of work for money. What that means is the gigger wants to do as little work as possible for as much money as possible. Well, when we're working with micro interns, because they're career launchers, again, college students and recent grads, they're seeing other benefits. They want to prove themselves. They want to build relationships. They want to find pathways into companies. They want to explore career paths. And what that means is they're inherently motivated to exceed expectations. So for the hiring manager that's already working in the gig economy or already using freelancers, this is going to drive even better results. But what it also does is it supports campus recruiting because it lets you get early access to students who, again, may not be aware of your brand. It lets you build relationships beyond the traditional recruiting pools. It lets you see their skills in action. It lets you actually see how good of a job they do in the variety of roles as they're learning about your organization. Now, by the way, for those of you on the call, a number of professionals at your companies may already be working with Parker Dewey. They may already have some of that rogue spend on our platform. Well, it's okay. The way Parker Dewey is structured is all of the students are either contractors or employees of Parker Dewey, which means there are 1099s or W-2s, not yours. They're also all under NDA, and the NDA has real teeth, like kicked out of college or transcript pulled, which is why in 6 years there have been no issues. And there's also no temp to perm fee. Again, back to our mission, we want you to find a student like Rachel. We want you to hire her. We want it to turn into a full-time hire. We don't want to create that disincentive of it. So in the same way that the regular freelancers or the folks using freelancers at your organization see the amplified benefits, so the members of your ERGs, which brings us to opportunity 4, engaging the ERGs or BRGs. Now, this is an area that's been incredibly powerful, especially during the past 9 months. Now, ERGs and BRGs for your organizations, if you have them, are such an incredible resource, but oftentimes the members feel marginalized. They feel like they're being asked to be the token person at a campus event, or they see the banners and the t-shirts about the importance of diversity, but they still feel like the pathways into the company may not be equitable or fair. Well, by leveraging the ERGs, you can provide them with a real benefit and have the type of impact that both they and your organization are hungry for. Specifically, by making this resource available to ERG members, they again view it as a perk. It's immediate support for projects that they have on their plate anyway, similar to every other employee at your organization. But what it also does is it lets them see the real effort by your company to create equitable pathways. It's not just about showing up at the HBCU or writing a check to a mission-driven organization, again, both of which are important. They're seeing this as creating a real equitable pathway. They're seeing the company's commitment to it. They also really enjoy giving back. This provides a great way to mentor and support individuals, again, who are from backgrounds similar to their own. What's also great about it is it's something that a lot of organizations are either funding through their diversity, equity, and inclusion budgets, or they're making it available for their ERGs to fund through their own budgets. So as ERG budgets were set, there was typically large amounts allocated to events and other in-person things that just aren't possible this year. Being able to allow the ERGs to deploy those resources, again, for micro-internships programs where they can engage students from, again, backgrounds similar to their own becomes incredibly powerful. What's also great about this approach is it provides scale. So many ERGs go across departments. This becomes a way to introduce it in marketing, sales, HR, finance, IT, whatever. But it also provides scale in the talent pool. As I talked about, a lot of companies say we're gonna drive diversity. Let's show up at some of the HBCUs, or let's partner with a specific organization, which again, very powerful and very important, but it's limited. So for instance, through the micro-internship program and our work with University Innovation Alliance, it provides access to diverse and underrepresented students across all 13 of the large state universities that are UIA members. Or through our work with the Dell Scholars, here's a great way to support students who are by definition first generation going to college, or the UNCF Career Pathways, or the Dream.us. We're also seeing a lot of community-driven partnerships. Again, through the work of P33 in Chicago, it's a great way for Chicago-based organizations to engage Chicago-based college students and recent grads, or the incredible program being done by the Kansas Department of Commerce. One of my favorites is Winning Edge. It's an organization that's providing equitable pathways for diverse student athletes. This provides a great opportunity for ERG members to, again, support diverse student athletes who may have backgrounds similar to their own, while also providing the company with a broad access to an incredible talent pool that may not be at the focus schools or may not attend one of the HBCUs. And it's one of the reasons it's, again, pretty powerful. Which brings us to the last of these big opportunities, champions. And we use the term champions broadly. Champions could be someone who went to a certain school and wants to give back, someone who wants to support their community, someone that just feels bad for the college students right now with everything going on. Well, micro-internships become a great way to give back. For the individual who went to Purdue and was a liberal arts student. So again, great example was a Purdue liberal arts grad. I think she was a philosophy major who's now in HR. And she talked about the fact her company sort of wasn't recruiting at Purdue liberal arts, just wasn't recruiting there. And it was sort of painful to her because she knew she was a product of it and she didn't have an HR major. So one of the things that she's doing is she's providing micro-internships for her own department and focused on giving back to Purdue liberal arts students. We see it again tied to specific communities like in Kansas or Akron or Arkansas or Colorado. What's also great for these opportunities is beyond the fact the existing employees appreciate the opportunity to give back in an authentic, real way, it also, to the campus recruiting side, helps drive more awareness. So while Purdue may not be a focus school of your organization right now, here's a way to get in front of the students. Here's a way to introduce them to overcome the preconceived notions that they may have. And really to prime the pump. Again, one of the powerful things we're seeing, especially right now, is companies are making micro-internship programs available to employees. They're making them available as a way to give back and get support. And what we've already seen is as departments start seeing the value of the micro-internships and helping their sort of specific departmental needs, they're finding they're willing to pay going forward out of the departmental budget. So for the campus recruiting teams, think about, again, how to amplify your budget through this type of an effort. So how do we make it all happen? If any or all of these 5 ideas sounded good, how can we make it happen? Well, again, it's pretty easy. And we'll go through these. Again, identify a team, identify a specific department. It could be an ERG. It could be a handful of new hires that you want to provide with the first managerial experience. Identify a team and see how sort of test their interest. And we're happy to help with that. We're happy to share examples of introductory emails to let them know it's out there. What we're also happy to do is host a webinar to introduce it, to walk through the step-by-step. Again, everything was designed to be easy. We know that existing managers love this because they've been using it for 6 years. We know they'll see the benefit. So it's simply a matter of making sure they're aware of the opportunity. So again, we're happy to host a webinar and work through it. We're also happy to build out an internal portal for you, similar to what I showed you before, making it even easier. So if you decide you want to focus specifically on the finance team, we'll create a portal specifically with finance projects. If you wanted to focus on the ERGs, We could create a portal, again, with messaging specifically aligned to the ERGs. Again, we're happy to handle it. We've done it for 6 years. We're pretty good at this stuff and can make it super easy. And then we even provide all of the onboarding and ongoing support. Again, we have an entire client success team that makes sure the managers have a great experience. And what we're also able to do is share all of the data and impact and results with you. And then the last thing is share any preferences or goals. So for instance, one of the companies we just wrapped up a program for was a Chicago-based organization that was really interested in getting to know college juniors or juniors and seniors. Sorry, I'm trying to remember. I think it was juniors and seniors who are originally from Chicago, but may attend university elsewhere because they were worried that that these students may not be aware of that company or may have preconceived notions about it. And given that it's a Chicago-based company, they also know that these Chicago students may be highly motivated or highly interested in returning home upon graduation. Again, by sharing those preferences and goals with us, we can do a lot of work behind the scenes to make sure that we're getting you the best folks. There's really two ways to introduce it within a company, either ad hoc or as programs. Ad hoc basically means managers can go post projects as they need them. They can go visit the site. They can use the templates, again, whether it's a customized portal or the main one. They can create the projects using all of these templates and best practices. They have full access to the client success team, really everything. And they can go do that. The average micro internship, I think I said before, is about $400. Client sets the price. Typical range is 200 to 600. But again, on average, about $400. They can put it on their corporate card. And that's great. So letting them know it's out there, letting them know that it's a resource for them and they can post ad hoc projects. In those cases, again, what we're able to do is provide you the portal with pre-scoped micro-internships based upon the best practices. We can do some targeting of specific students based upon your goals. Obviously, if you're doing 1 or 2 projects, it's a little more difficult to get you the scale. And we can provide you the reporting data. Again, some basic data on that. The other way companies launch this is as a program, where they'll make a commitment either to a certain number of micro interns or a certain budget. So for example, the company I mentioned before, I think had a $5,000 program. They were interested in providing 10 micro internships, and they were interested again in students from specific backgrounds. By doing it as a program, what it let us do was do much more targeted engagement of the college students. And again, this is not them getting an email saying, please apply for this job. This is not an invitation to a webinar. The students are highly engaged with us because they're excited about these experiences, which provides a much greater impact and a much greater return on investment for the organizations. We're also able to provide, again, a much more detailed impact report, which I'll share in a second, and more customized programs. I'm sorry, excuse me, more customized projects on the portal. So similar to the way I showed you before, we have an entire team that will spend time looking at job descriptions that your organization already has and putting out recommendations. And in all of these cases, we're still happy to do the webinars, emails, best practices, you name it. One thing that's worth noting, in all cases, again, the projects themselves can be done on demand. Typically, companies post 24 to 48 hours before wanting to select someone. In all cases, Parker Dewey is providing all of the administrative support. Again, the students are under NDA, they're on our payroll, they're our 1099s. In all cases, there is zero cost to hire. Back to our mission. If you're working with a micro intern and you really, really love that individual and you want to put them into your recruiting process for a summer internship or full-time role, awesome. There's no cost now, and we've guaranteed on the platform there will never be any cost associated with that. Also brings up another point that's important. Over 98% of these micro-internships exceed expectations. Back to my earlier comment, the students are inherently motivated to do a great job. I mentioned the impact report. This is something that we prepare and provide for companies when they're doing programs. Again, this is just a cleansed sample, but you can see some examples from this company, was the one I mentioned before, where they were able to engage students from all of these schools, these majors, these affiliations, again, tied to our partnerships with the organizations you see on the bottom of the candidates engage page. The students they ultimately selected, again, came from those universities. They currently reside in those cities, and they have hometowns, again, everyone except for one, in and around Chicagoland. We're also able to provide insights around the demographics. Now, these are the students' self-reported demographics. We don't provide it per person, obviously, to protect all of the sensitive information. But in this case, we were able to see that 52% of the students who applied self-reported as non-white, and of those selected, 70% were in that category. So for companies that are really focused on driving more equitable hiring, whether it's tied to racial identity or gender identity or first generation students versus legacies, we're able to provide all of that data. We're also able to provide the data around graduation dates. So as I mentioned, this was an organization that was very focused on seniors and recent grads because they had open roles they were looking to fill right now. We have other organizations that want to focus primarily on sophomores as a way to get early access for next year, or juniors who they worried they may have missed in the internship process, but they want to make sure they have a strong pipeline for the future. We also provide all of the data from the hiring managers on how the students performed. So after each micro internship is done, the hiring manager provides feedback. It takes a second. It's really, really simple. Again, we designed it to be easy, still provides meaningful input on things like timeliness and communication and quality accuracy. And the students are rated on a scale of 1 to 4. Though it never says that. It says as expected for an intern or new hire, above, below, or executed like an industry veteran. Those insights are incredibly valuable as you're planning your recruiting pipeline. So beyond the fact that the students are doing the work for the hiring managers, beyond the fact that it's driving this authentic engagement, you're also getting these great insights on who you should target in your recruiting, essentially with a pre-curated pool of candidates. What that means is the impact's real. I talked before about over 98% exceed expectations. What we also found is that over 98% of micro interns stick around. So as compared to the 55% of new hires who leave within the first year, 98% stay around. What we also found is over 80% of the micro interns selected come from underrepresented populations. So again, we're really proud of this impact. And what we like about it is it's real and sustainable. We're seeing companies creating new roles for first generation students. We're seeing companies identify students they may otherwise have missed, or creating pathways for students who are unable to participate in internships because of other obligations. What's also great is beyond the fact that the outcomes are better, it's even more cost effective. Again, the company savings by using micro internships is anywhere from 40 to 80% relative to what they were spending. So it leads to better outcomes, happier hiring managers, and more effective return on investment while providing, again, a competitive advantage. Early access to students, building the brand on campus, amplifying the message, driving conversion, enhancing diversity. Again, it's a pretty powerful approach overall. So what now? Well, for companies, really a few options. Launch a program. We're happy to work with you. As we said, the cost is not prohibitive. We've seen programs launch for as low as $5,000 and over $100,000. Really depends on what the company wants to do. And by the way, when we talk about the cost of the programs, this is not money that goes into Parker Dewey's pocket and just stays with us. With each micro internship, the student gets 90% of that. So when a company posts a $400 project, the student is getting $360. Parker Dewey does retain 10%, which covers our direct costs of having the student on our payroll and the 1099s, but the student gets the balance. So when we talk about launching a program, when we talk about organizations that have launched $50,000 programs, this was not, well, we're going to spend $50,000 to go buy a piece of software that'll let us market to college students or send out emails. We're talking about $50,000 where, again, the money winds up in the student's hands. The hiring managers see the immediate value of the work getting done, and the university recruiting teams see better outcomes. Engage your ERGs. They'll be excited about this, especially for the organizations that have very, very focused DEI efforts. And then let your hiring managers know it's a resource for them. As I said, whether it's a hiring manager that's constantly asking about when are the interns going to start or needing an extra set of hands, again, they'll be excited to use this. We've also made available a number of other resources, some of which you've seen in the slides as we've walked through, some of which we haven't shown, but some snapshots on what are micro internships, how they can help for for hiring managers, why they're easy, and links to a variety of templates and other best practices. And with that, happy to answer any questions that come up. Let me see if I can figure out how to use the Q&A. We did get a question about being able to lock down the micro internships for students from specific schools or backgrounds. We historically, it's a great question and a timely one. We historically have not done that because we believe in equitable access. And what we're hearing from employers is they want to have a variety of different logins for a variety of different schools and have to decide which students from which school. Like, it's a whole bunch of challenges. However, as we see more involvement by the champions, again, individuals that are focused on giving back to their communities, we are going to be introducing that in the coming weeks. You'll still have the default is that all of the students on the platform see it, and we can do some magic behind the scenes to really engage specific student populations. But for those who want to give back to an alma mater or support a specific organization, again, we're able to help. We got a question, what kind of students do you typically engage with? It really runs the full gamut. And we love that. We love the fact that students range from freshmen to seniors, recent college grad students, individuals who may have accepted their first role and aren't sure it's the right fit, or people who were laid off in their first role after college or university because of the pandemic. It's really a broad variety. It's also a broad variety across majors and backgrounds. And again, we like that. For the psychology major, here's a way to explore different career paths. Or for the student who's studying philosophy, who doesn't see any job titles of philosopher, here's a great way to sort of look at roles in marketing and strategy and finance. Because when we think about the core skills required for philosophy majors, research, communication, problem solving, crafting an argument, those skills align very well to so many of the roles, the full-time roles and internships of companies. This becomes a way for them to explore and for companies to make sure they're accessing those students and not artificially limiting the pool. We also see a lot of students from underrepresented backgrounds, student athletes, and others who aren't able to participate in the traditional summer internship programs or even the traditional on-site campus recruiting because of other commitments. What we found, again, for student athletes in particular, is we know that they have those core skills that employers value, the grit, problem solving, communication, teamwork, leadership, et cetera. This becomes a great way for them to showcase those skills to prospective employers who, again, may otherwise be filtering them out. We just got a question, how much time should my managers expect to spend with a micro intern? Again, this is designed to be easy. Typically, what we'll see happen is a manager will select the micro intern, and oftentimes we'll have a quick phone call or Zoom just to get to know one another. This is the project. This is what I expect. They may send over a template or example. It's not necessary, but a lot of managers like doing that. And then along the way, the time commitment by the managers is limited. Typically, what will happen is a student may check in once or twice along the way or send a draft. Really depends on the nature of the project. So for instance, if a manager wants a blog article written, they may say, well, send me an outline first. Let's make sure we're on the same page. And once the outline's done, okay, send me a first draft. Great, here's some revisions, send me the final. Again, it's made to be easy for the managers. If it's something that would take a manager 10 hours to do him or herself, they don't want to spend 5 hours managing someone for it. We designed this so micro-internship should take under 10 minutes. Now, what we do see happen in some cases is this authentic relationship forms between the manager and the micro-intern. We've seen it with ERGs, we've seen it with other managers as well, where they just really enjoy the work of the micro-intern, and they sort of say, offer to get on a call after, offer the coach, offer the help. And again, that's driven by the managers. And what's great is as that takes place, it really supports your recruiting efforts as well. We just got another question. We're interested in launching a program, but aren't sure what projects make the most sense. Can Parker Dewey help figure it out? Yes, 100%. We work very, very closely with organizations to help craft micro-internships specifically for them. So we're not asking you to do the work. We're not trying to put anything on the plates of the hiring managers. The benefit of having done this for 6 years is we've sort of seen it all. 80% of the micro internships all fall within those same sort of handful of things: content creation, market research, data cleansing, et cetera. So we're happy to work with you to craft specific projects, either that you have in mind to share with your colleagues or on behalf of specific hiring managers that have needs but aren't sure necessarily how to express them in the form of a micro internship. We're 100% happy to do it. And we have an entire client success team that spends a pretty big chunk of its time helping companies with that. I think you're welcome. I think those are all of the questions. As I said, we'll share these resources with everyone following the presentation, a link to the presentation. All that said, if you have any other questions along the way, if there's anything we can do to be of help, please reach out. My direct email is Jeffrey@Parker Dewey, or you can use sort of the website and just make a request. We're happy to do whatever we can. Hopefully it came across during this hour, even with my dry throat, that we're passionate about this. We started Parker Dewey to really address the challenges associated with college to career. And one of the reasons we like it is we're able to address those challenges in a way that everyone benefits. For companies, it provides a more effective way to identify, engage, hire, recruit, retain sort of early career professionals. For hiring managers, it provides this much needed, valuable resource, this opportunity to get immediate support on projects that may not be the highest and best use of their time. And then for the students, it provides these valuable experiences. It helps them demonstrate skills, helps them explore career pathways, it helps them find the right fit, which creates a win for companies and students alike. So with that, please let me know if you have any other questions. And this concludes the webinar.